And welcome back to the channel, everybody. Welcome back to a new video. And I'm going to answer the question that comes up in every single video in the comments. I've been getting messages and emails from you about this. And sometimes I assume that people have read up on all this stuff, but I'm wrong. And I am happy to be the person that helps explain this. And it's not very complicated, but it can be. So I'm going to go through it in a little bit of detail, so bear with me. But the reason why this question's coming up so much, which is how in the hell can Chevy and Ford keep making V8s? Because literally this morning I woke up and there is an article about the new, most powerful V8 Chevy has ever made in the new Corvette ZR1. It'll be over 1,000 horsepower, approaching 900 foot-pounds of torque. It'll be one of the most terrifyingly fast supercars on the planet. It's going to smoke a lot of cars out there that cost 4 times the value of this thing, the price of this thing. Yet how in the hell is Ford doubling down and Chevy doubling down when Chevy and GM just a couple of months ago says, oh, we're going to drop $1 billion to continue to build the most efficient V8 ever. And yes, Ford has said we are building a more efficient V8 and continuing to do it for the foreseeable future. So that makes me have to ask, how? I mean, all of us have to ask that question. How in the hell are they doing it, and why can't Dodge? Why can't Stellantis do it? Why are they bugging out? And so many of you comment and say, well, it's because of the government. It's not Stellantis' fault. They can't do it. And then someone else will jump in and say, but then how is Ford and GM doing it? And then there will be a fight in the comment section, a full-on brawl with baby oil and blood and crying. And I got to tell you, I got the answer, and I can explain it to you all, and it's pretty interesting, and it shows how mismanaged Stellantis has been. In my opinion, horribly ran Stellantis has been, how they've had no foresight into what would have saved the V8. They could have absolutely kept Scat Packs around, RTs, Hellcats. They could have developed a more efficient V8. They definitely could have kept Hellcats around, even if they just kept the Hellcats around. They could have updated the body style a little bit and the technology and continued to have great sales and not had the enormous, almost 50% drop in profit just in the last quarter, year over year, which was primarily because, as they put it, they got rid of some defunct brands. Well, I don't think any of us would agree that they are defunct. Certainly aged, certainly could have used some updating, but well-loved and sold so many of those things that it's now evidenced by the massive drop in profitability because they don't have those cars. They were better off still trying to sell those old cars, the Challengers and Chargers, than they are going to be trying to sell brand new EV Charger Daytonas this year and next year. And even with the inline 6-cylinder, it may not sell anywhere near the amount of cars as the Hemis did. And I think many of us would agree with that. But if we eliminated the Hemis and just said, let's only focus on the GTs, the SXTs, the Pentastars, the 6-cylinder, the V6s, and the Chargers and Challengers, they sold the daylights out of those things. I remember when they were down in the $22,000 range. I was thinking about buying one for my daughter. They sold hundreds of thousands of those things, and they made massive amounts of money on them. Now, yes, they got charged with fines, and as things continue to progress with the CAFE standards, it put pressure, and then Dodge had to make a decision, and Stellantis, Carlos Tavares, said, we're not paying any more of those carbon fines to the EPA to keep building those cars. And he made it sound like it's the government's fault, and we're not going to do it. But then Ford and GM continue to do it. So let's jump in. I'm going to show you some interesting stuff here. All right, so here's the article on the Corvette ZR1 that just got announced. This thing's going to be insane. Here it is. Chevy's engineers push the boundaries for 1,064 horsepower, 828 foot-pound of torque. Now, turbocharged V8. Now, I don't know about you all, but I mean, when you look at the numbers, they wanted to slap the demon around. Now, I know it's not a drag car, but they wanted to slap the demon around. They wanted to come up with some numbers that would absolutely, on paper, just destroy the Demon 170. And no question, this car will do that. It will be insane. It will destroy Lamborghini Aventadors, It will destroy all kinds of insane vehicles out there. So this thing's going to be nuts. Will it be expensive as hell? Absolutely it will. But of course, it begs the question, how are they able to keep bringing this stuff? Think about this. Theoretically, Dodge could have kept on doing Demons another year, or they could have came up with a Red Eye Plus or something and just made some amazing Halo car that had lower production numbers that kept on going. Now remember, this isn't the only cars with V8s that GM's keeping around, but let's talk about Ford and these other articles that are coming out. Ford and General Motors won't be getting rid of the V8 engine for a long time. This is last year, and now we're watching it manifest itself this year as all these manufacturers start to pull back on their EV production because sales have slowed tremendously. They're expensive to build, and they cost a fortune to maintain if they break because the technology is so complicated, which I heard on Ford's earnings call that a lot of their issues with a lot of the new technology that contributed to their earnings issues was tied towards warranty work. But nonetheless, they launched a lot of EVs. So this article goes into why GM is launching a new small block V8. And the bottom line is, it gets down into, well, they believe that with companies like Dodge that's pulling back, that there's going to be a huge push for, and they put it right here, a need for full-size pickups and SUVs powered by internal combustion engines. Not only their fleet products for businesses, for companies, for cities, for governments, they're going to need these V8s. So they're going to capitalize on it, which I think is smart business no matter how you cut it. But then I found this article, which I want to share with you, that starts to explain why this is happening. So, Mr. Farley, CEO, says the success of the Mach-E, the electric SUV, which bears the same name as the two-door sibling, which is stupid as hell, and the F-150 Lightning has allowed the two-door Mustang to stay in production due to emissions offsets created by the battery-powered models. So that is the theme of this video. Ford and Chevy with the Bolt, Chevy with lots of four-cylinder engines, all these really small, really efficient motors, along with EVs, along with hybrids, kind of like the Chevy Volt for years, enabled Ford with this Mach-E and the F-150 and all their new EV products and hybrid products to offset the CAFE requirements when it comes to the miles per gallon. We'll talk about that more in a second. I did go and do some searching, which leads me into the point of, well, why can't Dodge? Well, because Dodge didn't play in the party. Think about the last time Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram had four cylinders. I mean, it's been a while, and the ones they did have, if they even had them, were so few and far between. They sold the vast majority of their cars were V8s and six cylinders. And yes, they had the Pacifica hybrid, which definitely helps, but when you look at the average miles per gallon on that thing, they weren't phenomenal. So they weren't building up any credits or any ability or offsets to be able to build these V8s. So they came into a situation where they hit a wall. I wanted to real quickly just remind everybody, Obama administration finalized, this is August 2012, the historic 54.5 miles per gallon fuel efficiency standards. And that takes us to this graph right here. And this graph shows when these things started to kick in. So here's 2010, 11, 12. And this little elbow sticking out here shows Obama said things are going to ratchet up, which meant everything had to ratchet up. This is passenger cars. This is light-duty trucks. So we come up to here, and we get up to 2024 and 2025, and it dropped up. And I believe that happened in the Biden administration. So this is not political. This is just what administrations, okay? So we end up with now 58.90 average miles per gallon under the CAFE standards. They have to be able to hit, meaning all their cars put together, what is the average miles per gallon? Well, if you have a whole bunch of EVs that have been being built for years and a whole bunch of hybrids and a whole bunch of very efficient four cylinders and even three cylinders for many years, tiny little, very efficient cars, your average miles per gallon are going to be significantly lower, enabling you to have some of the bigger engine cars. Well, of course, these companies that are building these V8s still are increasing the technology in the V8s to make them more efficient. But this is why this is all happening. And it gets increasingly stupid, which, you know, we're not going to get into politics, but you want to see where things get just obnoxiously stupid. By 2031, they want an average of 91.60. This is why the Chevron deference is so important, because this will be physically impossible for them to achieve unless all they make is, you know, 3-cylinder cars and 90% of the rest of them are electric vehicles. It's utterly ridiculous, no matter how you cut it. But right now, we're in the stupid land, and it's going to level off a little bit, but it's still pretty insane. But with some pushes in technology, we can get there. Maybe this will get turned over. Maybe this will get softened up, depending on how the election goes and how many challenges to the Chevron deference, are brought to bear as a result of this. But let me show you why Dodge is screwed and why Stellantis really blew it. And this is EV adoption in the U.S. since 2021. And this is really interesting. And this exposes Dodge for their lack of leadership. Had they started launching just for the sake of being able to keep the Hemis around, knowing that they were such flagship vehicles and brought so much credibility to the brand and spirit to the brand, then they could have seen this coming. And let's look at in 2021. Of course, Tesla's smashing everybody and continues to. But there continues to be more adoption, but nobody's really winning in the adoption race more than Tesla. Even though Tesla might drop a little bit, it's just more players in the playing field. But let's go to 2021. You got Tesla, you got Ford starting early 2021, and the craze was happening. People were talking about the future. And then you've got Volkswagen, and then you've got Chevy they're on the field, they're playing. You've got Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi, and you've got other, which is just nobody's. So then you've got brands probably that come and go. And then you've got Tesla, Ford again in 2021 Q4. Then you've got Hyundai jumps in there. Volkswagen again. You've got Renault, and then you've got other. Again, Tesla, kicking butt, taking names. And then Ford still playing though. They're hanging. They're selling cars. They're doing this Mach-E thing. And shortly thereafter, I believe, was when the Lightning came out. And you've got Hyundai. You've got Volkswagen. You've got Rivian now on the scene. You've got Mercedes is on the scene. All right, here you are with Tesla, Ford again, Hyundai, Volkswagen, Chevy growing, building more EVs, building up their average miles per gallon average. And then you've got Renault, BMW's on the scene. Here comes BMW. Guess who we're missing, everybody? We're missing Dodge. Where are you? Where are you, Dodge? Come on. Everybody's partying. Where are you guys at? Carlos, wake up. Now you've got Tesla again. Ford, Hyundai, Volkswagen, Chevy, Rivian. Never even heard of them. I mean, they're just coming on the scene the last couple of years. Mercedes is in the game now. You've got Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi, BMWs. They're here. They showed up. Geely, other. Where is Dodge? Carlos, wake up. Then you've got 23 comes along. Here you are. They're telling us, buy our last call cars. Here's Tesla, doing well, dropping prices and selling more cars. Ford, Hyundai, Volkswagen, Chevy, big jump from the last few years. And then you've got Rivian, you've got Mercedes-Benz, Nissan, Mitsubishi again, BMW, still just trickling along, Geely, and other. Where's Dodge? I know you're getting the theme here. Still, you can go all along. Ford, still pumping them out. Hyundai, I'm just looking for Dodge, folks, at this point. Chevy's hanging in there. Rivian, Mercedes is starting to grow. Nissan, BMW, Geely, and other. Still no Dodge. Tesla, Ford, still doing a ton of business compared to all these others. No wonder they get to keep the V8, right? Hyundai, Volkswagen, Chevy, Rivian. So Chevy's in there. Mercedes, Nissan. You guys getting the feel here? BMW's still hanging in there. Other, still no Dodge. Dodge, where are you, Carlos? Carlos, Earth to Carlos. Everyone's doing EVs, but you. So, and you're still paying huge fines to the EPA for all your V8s when all you had to do was take that money you were spending fines on and start building a cheap EV, even if it was that, which I think they had the Fiat's ready. I was at a car show years ago, and they could have started that thing out here for some reason. They didn't. So you still got Hyundai, Ford's doing great, Volkswagen, Chevy, Rivian. Where is Dodge? So you guys, I'm not going to bore you with all this, but the bottom line is Chevy and Ford continue to do their EV stuff. This doesn't even account for hybrid. This doesn't account for the small engines, the 4 cylinders that help achieve those standards. Ford again, all the way up until 2024 Q1. Dodge is still nowhere to be found. Still, now we are sitting here in 2024. We're in the midst of, this EV drop. So look, you had this run up all the way here, and then it's going down, and it's probably going to go down again. And guess what? That's when Dodge is going to join the EV party. So this was the party. This was when they had a chance, and it would have helped them keep the V8s, and it would have made them a more balanced company and much more capable of surviving. But they skipped the party. They didn't bring in anything. They just, I don't know, who knows what the hell they were doing. And they were planning the exit really well of the other stuff, but they weren't planning the entrance of the new stuff. And they're still late in delivering the new stuff. All we get is a stupid Hornet, which nobody wants to buy, and then EV's still not here. Now EV party is ending, or at the very least slowing down tremendously. And that's when Dodge wants to come to the party. That's the problem, folks. That is the issue. I thought I'd share this one last little note. So Ford has been able to continue to sell the Mustang V8 models in part because it invested in making vehicles more efficient, and it was an early to adopt smaller turbocharged 4-cylinder engines that now make up 48% of Mustang sales in the US. They could have dropped a 4-cylinder and a Charger with a turbo and helped the MPGs. Who knows? And they could have just followed Ford. Just whatever Ford was doing, just do it. Ford also offered all-electric Mach-E crossover. Of course, we know that helped. And that's how they were able to do it. That's how they were able to keep their V8s. Same with Chevy. All these guys were in the party. And Dodge, Carlos, God knows what he was doing. But he couldn't do it. He didn't do it. And now he's going to do it now that many less people want these EVs. So that's the reason why, folks, based on the CAFE standards, and hopefully those get challenged and things come back to earth to some level, but it doesn't matter because Stellantis blew it. They blew it for so many years before. Had they just launched some very efficient stuff, but they were so focused on the greed aspect of this. They were so focused on charging us more money, markups, ridiculous prices, raising their MSRP on cars that could not stand alone without extremely fuel efficient or EV cars being built. When Ford started up, it should have been a sign. Everybody knew in 2012 when Obama said, we're going to be shooting for the mid-50s in MPGs for average, that you might want to start building your offsetting cars today. Your EVs, your hybrids, your super efficient 4-cylinder turbos. You should start making lots of those today, so in the future, you don't have to whiplash everybody out of their V8s and out of their gas engines and their fun stuff. And that is why Ford and GM are still able to keep doing it. Now, as you can see by that graph I showed you, that chart I showed you where it keeps getting harder year after year. That's why I believe with the Chevron deference, and who knows what happens with the election, that there could be some shifts or some softening in that or eliminating of that. Who knows? But I think there will be a compromise. Something reasonable will happen. But Stellantis will still be full all the way down the road going EV when everybody else is pulling back. That is not a good strategy in this situation. In some situations, it was great, meaning when Tesla decided to do it before anyone was doing it and everyone thought it wouldn't work, they built their market share to where they will never be overtaken by another automaker. They are so dominant, it's unbelievable, almost to the extent that the Tesla could be considered as big as probably the big three were when you combine them all for decades and decades. So good luck anybody trying to catch them. You look at all the years they've been at this, all the quarter after quarter, and they've not been able to grow or take much market share away from Tesla. So that's why Ford and GM are still coming out with cool stuff, and Stellantis isn't. Now, if Stellantis would get on and say, okay, here's what we'll do. We're going to build all this electric stuff, and we promise you, if you guys love this stuff, we're going to build all this, four-cylinder stuff. We will bring back the V8 in, 2026. But we've got to be able to prove that we can get our average MPG to where we can achieve and not have to pay huge fines or buy carbon offsets. That's all they'd have to do. But even then, they're ran by a guy that just isn't listening. I got another video I'm going to do on that. It's actually him speaking, which is terrifying. He believes that, okay, the reason people aren't buying the EVs is because they're too expensive. Certainly, everything's too expensive. So if he makes them cheaper, then everybody's going to want to sit at charging stations. It's ridiculous. He still doesn't get it. So with that said, everybody, hopefully this was informative. Hopefully this helps you understand why we'll see other cool stuff coming from Ford and GM while Dodge sits there languishing with weird cars they're going to keep bringing out and trying to convince us that we should buy them. So with that, please like, subscribe, comment, share this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.